everyone. It is Dr. T coming back to you with Hope and Serenity Health Services. I am the founder, the CEO of Hope and Serenity Health Services, which is a women's mental health, holistic mental health, sex therapy, and relationship therapy practice mental health agency located in Central Florida. And today I have with us Dee Hondros. Dee is a licensed mental health counselor. She is the lead clinician here at Hope and Serenity Health Services. And Dee is just one of the most phenomenal people that I've had the honor to not only meet, but to work with. Uh, Dee is going to talk to us today about a really important topic just in time for this month. But before I give away what the topic is, I first want to say hi, Dee, and welcome.
Hi, Dr. T. Thank you.
You are welcome. And so, not to keep you all in suspense any longer, the topic is going to be autism spectrum disorder. As many of you may know, April is National Autism Awareness Month. And so Dee has graciously agreed to talk to us a little bit today and share with us some really important insights about autism spectrum disorder. And so thank you, Dee, for your willingness to do that.
Of course, I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, my first question for you is, what led you to have an interest in the topic, the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder?
Yes, so first and foremost, I have lived experience. I was diagnosed late in life with autism spectrum disorder as an adult. And so that's been a journey for me. And then as a mental health professional, I have a passion for that and for supporting supporting other people in their journey and exploration of this. And support is needed, and the kind of support that is specific to adults. And so that's what I'm here for.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you so much for sharing your own experience and your own story, and to speak specifically about being willing to support adults, because that's something that is definitely needed.
Mhm.
Um, Many people may find that when they are looking up information on autism spectrum disorder, they find information about children, they find test information, providers, all designed to support children. But there aren't many people who are willing to support adults, who speak to that specifically. And so I know I'm grateful that you are lending your knowledge, skills, and expertise to us to support adults. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, for people who are curious about the difference between neurodiversity and autism spectrum disorder, terms that are often used interchangeably nowadays, what is
Mhm.
the difference?
Yeah, so neurodiversity is sort of the broad term, and neurodiversity just means differences in the way that people process, neurological differences, differences in neurological wiring and makeup, and so that's a broad term. Um, Neurodivergent is another term that we hear, which is about a specific person. And so if we say that person is neurodivergent, it means that they're basically not neurotypical. A person who is autistic falls under that category. They're neurodivergent, but so are people with things like ADHD.
Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. I know that that's a question that I often receive, and those questions typically come from people who have seen TikTok videos and they're trying to determine who they are and where they fit, and even what to say.
Mhm.
And so, with that, another question that tends to come up is, should someone say autistic? Should they say on the spectrum, ASD? What's the right thing to
Mhm.
say?
Yeah, technically, all the things that you just said are correct. Autism is a spectrum, and ASD is the abbreviation for autism spectrum disorder. Um, a lot of autistic people now prefer identity first language, which is saying, I'm autistic, or autistic person versus person with autism. And so making it identity first language conveys that the person and the autism are not separate, which is true, we're not. And it acknowledges how autism really shapes a person's experiences of the whole world every day. And so separating someone from that really isn't possible. Um, it also says something about, I think, a person's beliefs about autism. If I say I'm autistic, I'm saying it that way because I don't think it's a demeaning term. It just is. I am autistic, and it also can convey a sense of pride and acceptance of self and love of self.
Mhm.
And that said, there are people who also prefer person first language, and so that would be saying person with autism.
Mhm.
And people have the right to choose how they want to be identified. And the language that we use does matter because the words that we use to describe people often shape perceptions about them. And so, yeah, that's important. And if you're in doubt about how to address someone with autism or an autistic person, it's okay to ask.
Beautiful. I love that. Um, I love the component that you shared is that it's not demeaning. It just is. And there is a sense of pride, and it takes away the stigma for many people, which we need to do more of, is take away stigma of identity and diverse lived experiences. And so powerful, powerful in what you shared, and that everyone has the right to identify in the way that works best for them. So thank you. Thank you. Another question that I have, sometimes people are surprised when they find out that someone is autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And a statement that they may make um, is, wow, you don't look autistic. What would you say to
Mm-hmm.
someone who makes that statement or someone who thinks that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first response, obviously, is to cringe a little bit because because that can be hurtful.
Yeah.
How a person with autism presents to the outside world varies widely. There's not one external characteristic or behavior that's universal to every autistic person, um, and so it's hard to define it as a look. And autism is not a look at all. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder, and so unless you're looking at my brain, it might be difficult to see in certain moments, and in other moments it might be very clear. Um, that kind of statement is problematic because it's dismissive, though. It's dismissive because it invalidates a person's lived experience. And it could be coming from a misalignment of what a person has seen or observed. An autistic person that they know looks different than this autistic person standing in front of them, and
Mhm.
so sometimes it's hard to figure that out. But again, everybody looks different, and autism is a spectrum, and it's also really hard to simplify it and say that this is what it looks like. There are diagnostic criteria, obviously, that we use to make a diagnosis of autism, but even in those diagnostic criteria, there are just a myriad of ways that can present in a person. Um,
Mhm.
Not only in intensity of symptoms, but also how the symptom shows up and how that difference or difficulty shows up.
Mhm.
And one autistic person, might have difficulty with sensory input. And so maybe they'll get overstimulated very quickly in a situation that's loud or noisy or crowded, something like that. But they may not have very much difficulty at all with eye contact. And then another person might be the total opposite. And so just because a person has a symptom that's intense doesn't necessarily mean that all of their symptoms are that level of intensity. And so some people have suggested that autism is better conceptualized as a wheel than a spectrum because of that,
Mm.
because of how that shows up.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what you just expressed brought to mind for me some of the questions that I get. Again, I get a lot of questions that come from TikTok. And not people asking me on TikTok, but that people have seen a TikTok video and then they come to me and they say, Dr. T. And so one of the Dr. T questions I get is, I saw a TikTok video and this person was talking about their lived experience and having sensitivity to a lot of noise and having difficulty being in spaces with a lot of people, or not really feeling like they fit in with people, not sure what is expected of them. I hear that one a lot. I'm not sure what people are expecting of me. And when they see that other people describe it in TikTok videos, they say, that's me. That sounds like me. And so they're wondering if they are autistic and how to determine that. And then they also hear things such as masking and stimming. And so you so well spoke to autism doesn't have a look. There isn't a look, and people have a variety of experiences. So, what might you say to someone who comes in and says, this person on TikTok was doing all of the things, or many of the things that I do or that I experience? Am I autistic? What might you say?
Mhm. Yeah, those kinds of things are helpful to hear other people's experiences and stories because, yeah, we do sometimes see ourselves in that, and it can be validating, and it can lead us to ask more questions and seek support. So in that way, it's wonderful. And at the same time, yeah, it could be that a person is autistic if they're experiencing those things, and yet if someone says, this is me, this is how I show up, I'm autistic, and that's not you, it doesn't mean you're not autistic. And so, again, it could show up in a variety of ways, but all of those ways that it shows up are going to fall under those diagnostic criteria. It's just that those criteria just look so different in so many different ways in different people, and it varies among populations. It a person's gender can make a difference. A person's age can make a difference in how it shows up. And
Mhm.
it is childhood onset. So, a person may look back at their childhood and say, oh, I remember, you know, not understanding what was going on when I went to kindergarten and all the other kids were just playing with each other and talking and I didn't know what to do. So and so that might be something that you look back on now and say, I wonder. Um, that said, though, it might not be that apparent to some people until you're an adult or until you get older, because the demands of life as an adult um, cause things to become more clear to you. Like you might struggle more in certain areas because you have to show up and be an adult. Like you have to work with other people and you have to try to follow what's going on socially and read the room, and that can be difficult. And so sometimes when the demands of life get to a point where it makes the symptoms more apparent, that's when people start to question, and that's when they find out.
Mhm. Thank you again for naming that, because it makes it that much more helpful and important that there are people such as yourself who are supporting the adults who are in a place of discovery and learning for the first time that they may be autistic, that they have been diagnosed with autism. And with so many resources being available for children and so few being available for adults, it's helpful to have someone to talk to say, this is new for me. It's been my lived experience, but now I have a name to go with it, or I think I have a name to go with it. What do I do? And so, again, having an adult speak to another adult about it can be helpful. Diagnostically, if someone wants to know, am I autistic? What can they do? What should they do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if that's something that they want to know and want to have clarified or verified, I would encourage someone to do that. I would encourage someone to seek out um, a a psychologist or a psychiatrist who does have experience and expertise in adult diagnosis. because that process is probably going to look a little bit different. Also, that assessment for autism needs to include assessing for masking behaviors, because that's a whole other thing that can delay the diagnosis, because we get good at adapting and doing what we think we're supposed to do, saying what we think we're supposed to say in order to get through life, and fit in and do all of those things. And so sometimes it can be so well hidden that it's difficult to assess for. So assessing for autism in an adult needs to include an assessment for masking.
Excellent. And for people who may not know what masking is, can you describe or define that for people?
Sure. Yeah. Masking is a lot like it sounds. It's wearing a mask. It's something an autistic person might do in an effort to blend in or just otherwise appear more neurotypical, um, in a social situation. It doesn't have to be in public, though. I mean, sometimes we mask at home or mask with our family and friends. Um, and that can be conscious. It's a thing that we might do because we know, like, I had this job interview, and so if I don't make eye contact, they're going to wonder why I'm not doing that. And so we know what the expectations are sometimes, and we try to fit that in order to get what we need or just get through life, um, or to avoid being rejected and try to be accepted. Uh, Other times it might be unconscious. We don't even realize that we're doing it. It's an automatic adaptation to a situation. And the way I'm describing it, it sounds like something that everyone does. Like, yeah, we all need to shift to fit the social situation. We need to read the room that we're in. Masking, though, autistic masking is different because what we're essentially doing is going against our very wiring, the way that our brain is wired, and tightening the reins on ourselves and our behavior. And that is something that takes a ton of energy and effort. And it's essentially overriding our natural wiring. It could be suppressing something, like not stimming in a situation because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves, or it can be adopting something we wouldn't normally do, like forcing ourselves to make eye contact, because, that's probably going to be important in some situations.
Yeah.
And so that's, it sounds like an inconvenience, but it's so much more than that. It is disconnecting from ourselves and disconnecting from other people. And the issue with that is not only that it completely drains us, but it can contribute to mental health concerns like anxiety and depression, losing our sense of self, um, losing a sense of self efficacy. Like, can I even get through the world if I have to keep doing this? Can I get through life? And so that's how it has a detrimental impact on autistic people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that, describing that. And as someone who works with people in relationships, when there is a person who is not autistic and their partner is autistic, and the impact of that, having to understand, have empathy, support. One of the challenges that I work with couples when it is present, when there is that difference of there is a person who is not autistic and someone who is autistic, is the energy. The energy is one of the really significant factors in that, because spending a day masking, or half a day masking, and depending on the intensity of the masking, a partner is done. They're done for the day. They're done for 2, 3 days. It just depends on what was asked of them and how much energy was required. And being able to educate, provide understanding, create ways to support that work for both people or for all people in a relationship is important. And so I'm so glad that you spoke to this, because this is one of those areas that in relationships it can be difficult, and also in the occupational setting where someone needs to have a break, they need to have time, and it's real. And sometimes people who are living with that experience of, I always need a break. I always need to take a nap. I always, what is this? Am I ever going to be successful? Will I find a job that works for me?
Mm,
Once they're able to have that understanding and education around masking and the energy that it takes, it can be liberating in so many ways. So thank you.
absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are some challenges that ASD adults face that their friends, family, or coworkers may not be aware of?
Mhm. I think every autistic person would give you a different and unique answer to that question. There are so many things. Um, I think that one of the things that I can speak to, which you sort of alluded to just then when you were talking about couples, was misunderstanding the way that an autistic person is showing up and misunderstanding what that means about how they feel about you, about their
Mhm.
loved ones, their partners, or just people in general. I think sometimes autistic people are misunderstood in that we just don't like people. We don't like to be around people. No people. Um, it's not that we don't like people. Um, it's often that we don't like peopling, and so and sometimes we might even like peopling. It just has to be in that right dose, in the right context, and we have to be prepared mentally, energetically, all of that. And so, if you see a person, whether or not you know they're autistic, but if you see a person out and about who's wearing their headphones or their earbuds, um, it's not because they don't want to talk to you. I mean, maybe that's it, but it could also be because they're just trying to control the noise that's coming in, or they're trying to keep themselves regulated, and that's why they're doing that. I think a lot of the adaptations that autistic people make are construed as rude.
Mhm.
um, it might look like that externally if you don't understand that this is actually an attempt to just continue surviving and just do our thing.
Mhm.
And so sometimes we need to do things like that. Sometimes we need to say no to invitations, to social events, or something like that. And it's not that we don't want to be with you or spend time with you. It might be that, um, you know, we're just out of that kind of energy, or we know what we have coming up the next week. And so if we spend the energy on this, it's not going to work. I won't be able to get through the next week. And it has nothing to do with a person's, care about someone else.
Mhm.
Autistic people love and care just as much as everyone else. It might look different, or we might say it differently, even, but we still love and care about people.
Yeah. Thank you, Dee, for naming that. Thank you so much. And there is true value and benefit and beauty in from my perspective in how autistic people navigate the world, and we have a lot to learn. A lot of us are socialized to tap dance and to walk on eggshells and to people please and to do a lot of other things. And the power of the no, no, I don't have the energy. No, I cannot do that. No, no, without an explanation, not peopling, self-regulating are things that many of us can benefit from. And I just appreciate you naming that and specifically empowering individuals because autistic people are not broken. There is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. So I hear that a lot. What's wrong with me? There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with you at all.
Absolutely.
You're amazing. You're wonderful. You're beautiful. There's nothing wrong with you. And you spoke to that in so many ways today. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for you and for the education you shared with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and share this.
You're welcome. And thank you, everyone. If you want to learn more about Dee, please visit us at our website, hopeserenityhealth.com. Also, check out Dee's blog that she wrote on our website, on our blog site. And if you'd like to have a consultation with Dee to talk more, please feel free to give us a call if you're here in Florida, 407-308-0345. And I'll make sure all of our information is located down below for you. Thank you again. And thank you, Dee. You're amazing.
Thanks.
Welcome.